information with you today. And we are able to provide this information and these resources and the training to you for free through the Family Resource Network of Ohio because of the generous funding of the Department of Developmental Disabilities and the Department of Education and Workforce. This is one of many trainings. This, like I said, we are focusing on that social connections piece today. But if you want to find out more information about other trainings that are coming up, please go to frnohio.org. And excuse me, there's a list of all the different trainings that are there. And there's also a Facebook page if you Facebook. So you could find out some more information, and there's lots of stories shared there. So you could see how other folks around the state are using this information. So this session will have available one CPDU from DODD. You have to be here for the whole session, and we are asking you to keep your cameras on. You know, if you can. I know it's probably like getting on dinner time and things like that, so we understand if you're snacking, that's fine, or if you have some reason not to have your camera on, we understand. But if we have the cameras on, we can see who you are, make sure you're here with us, and we want you to participate, please. And at the end, there'll be a form that you're going to fill out. When we finish, there's a feedback form, and on that, it's going to have a question that's going to ask if you need the CEUs, and that's where, or the CPDU, and that's where you're going to let us know that. And then in a couple weeks after, you'll get a certificate, and this is what it will look like. And you're going to get an email that will come from that no reply, so it'll look a little strange. So sometimes, check in your trash, your junk, your clutter, whatever you're going to call that, the places where the emails that your email system doesn't necessarily recognize what might go to. So make sure you get that certificate. Excuse me. Okay, so I had mentioned that Barb and I are here to share the information with you, but also on our team and on the call are Tracy Manns and Erica Young. Tracy is the project manager, and Erica is the project manager coordinator, and Erica will be dropping some things in the chat as we go along. So she's already started putting things there. So you're going to get links and information as we go through, and when we start talking about the resources we're sharing, she will drop those in the chat as well. So please make sure you're checking the chat. Okay, so I said that Barb and I are here to share information with you. So this is me. So I'm Angie Chappell, and I am first and foremost a sibling. So I am the sibling to Dave and Ed, and that's Dave has a disability. So Dave has cerebral palsy. He uses a wheelchair, and he uses AAC to communicate. He is 5 years younger than me, and we have been together and hanging out, and we've been roommates. I've been his caregiver. I've been the unpaid caregiver. I was a paid caregiver for a few minutes there too, when that was happening. And like I said, we've been roommates. We're concert friends. We just hang out. He was my babysitter for my son, and my son Nathan is in that bottom picture there. So that was fun when my son would love to go hang out with his Uncle Dave. I am also, I help out my dad. My dad lives here with me. He is now, I think he's 87. And he's been living with me for a few years now, just to give him a little extra support. I just recently retired from the education system. So I worked in Cleveland schools where I was a teacher. I was also a supervisor, and then I moved into the state support team system. So I worked at a couple different state support teams, and I just retired this past summer. And then I moved into working with Milestones Autism, and now I'm just kind of figuring out what's next. I'm also a Charting Life Course Ambassador, and I work for Case Western Reserve University as an adjunct professor as well. All right, and so I'm going to turn this over to Barb now so she can introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. If you haven't let us know your role, could you please type it in chat? And if you are a family member, indicate that. It's always helpful to see who we're reaching. So as with Angie, I am also a sibling. My youngest brother, Nick, was diagnosed when he was 6 months and I was 4. My middle brother had an acquired disability as a result of an accident. I've worked with people and families for 50 years and in a variety of roles. My training is as a speech language pathologist. I worked as a support administrator and other positions. And I am also an Ohio ambassador. I do work for the University of Missouri, Kansas City, which is the where Charting the Life course was developed. And I'm a mentor trainer in person center practices. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Barb. All right, so I'm going to share some outcomes with you. So this is what we're, hoping that what you will take away after spending some time with us today. That this is about those social connections, and just making those connections with other folks, and just understanding the importance of it, and kind of how they happen. So through identifying interests, and just finding ways to connect with other people. We're going to share some tools with you and some other resources that can help you with that, to help you to have those conversations with individuals as they're working through making some of those connections. Again, we're gonna just some of the resources which are on the next slide, which I'm gonna share with you. Come on, there we go. And some of the handouts that we're gonna be going over with you. You will have a copy of this PowerPoint in PDF. You're going to have a copy of the integrated support star, the one-page person-centered description. We're going to share a couple of interest inventories with you, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, what those look like and how you can use them. And then we have a starter star, the social spirituality starter star, just to give you some ideas of where to jump off from as you're working through these conversations. Okay, so again, we said this is the first time we're doing this because we've seen that there's a need for this conversation around those social opportunities and social connections, and they're important, and we want to honor that, and we want to make sure that we are acknowledging the importance of it. That it when we think about this, that we are social beings, right? Humans are social beings. We thrive on being around other people. We need people, right? Everybody has people. You might have said you might have a person, you might have lots of people, but we all have people. And it is that basic human need. And there is data that shows that by having these connections, that people tend to have a better quality of life. They live longer, higher well-being. They feel there's more safety. Just it adds to life. Okay, so rather than being isolated or that feeling alone, when you're around folks, when you have those social connections, it improves quality of life. Okay, and I love that last part where it says it's one of the strongest predictors of survival. Okay, so if you think about that early in life, yeah, we really think about that when you're, babies without somebody else there, that's, babies need people. But then just all through life, we continue to need people. And then also later in life, like I said, my dad lives with me. I'm helping him out. It's probably extending his life even more to be here with me as opposed to being alone. Hey, and then again, always when we're thinking in terms of when we talk about charting the life course, we want to make sure we're keeping that person-centered thinking at the forefront. Yes, we're going to talk about social connections and just interactions, but we want to make sure that we are always keeping the individual, that person, at the center. That we want to make sure that we are valuing and hearing from them, their voice for their good life. We want to make sure that we are helping them to see themselves as valued members of the community and that positive control over their lives. And then that which comes through informed decision making. And just an extra little kind of point on that informed decision making, that's about making sure that that everybody, whoever we're talking with, the individuals, have all of the information that they need to make those good informed decisions. And when we talk about social interactions and connections with other people, one of the things we want to make sure that we are talking about and we're giving all of that good information about is about boundaries and safety, right? Because oftentimes we're making connections with people in various ways, and sometimes it's right here, like on the internet, right? We're talking to each other this way. And we want to make sure that everyone knows all of the information, understands red flags, feels safe as they're making those connections and as they're making decisions about whom to speak with, where to go, how to make those connections. And it's just vitally important for that informed decision making to make sure we are thinking boundaries and safety as well. Okay. All right. And now I'm going to let Barb tell you a little bit more.
Okay, thanks, Angie. So as we talk about the importance of social connections and providing people intentionally with opportunities, because that is the greatest human need, is to be part of a group, to be valued. And we know that it increases your length of time on this earth, that people who have connections are going to live longer. Some of the literature on community and belonging is unfortunately pretty old, 1989, but I love Ray's vision of community. And he called, in a book called The Great Good Place, he talked about how we all have three places. Our first place is our home. Our second place is where we go during the day. So school, work, volunteer, whatever we do. And then a third place is where we socialize, where we share our ideas and gifts and build community. And it doesn't have to be a formal place, it doesn't have, you don't have to have Robert's Rules of Order. It's in the community typically. And remember, this was written 36 years ago. So think community being physical community as well as virtual community. It's a place where you meet people, you socialize, it's comfortable, and you just feel a sense of belonging. And it's a place where you can have conversations. So think about the places you like to go to. You like to go to places where you can sit and be comfortable and you can chat. So maybe chairs are organized so you're facing each other. And if you're in one of these places, you're going to hear people talking and people laughing because that's how we connect. So just take a minute or a second and type in chat, where is your third place? Where do you go? Not home, not work. Where do you go where you feel a sense of belonging? You're sharing your interests. One of my third places is church. Another place is the gym. Another place is I go to a group that has similar interests on Tuesdays. So as soon as I'm off this call, I'm going to go change and head out the door. Okay, mom's house, the library, a yoga studio, going to the park to hike. Okay. Where do you go where you see people, you interact, you laugh with them? Girls' night out. I love it. Thank you, Laura. Anybody go to a coffee shop and hang out with friends? I always like to try the independent coffee shops where they have couches and they set it up so you actually can sit and talk to people. Any other third places? I want to push you beyond family. Where do you go? Anybody belong to a club? Any of you go to any of your kids' activities and it's on a routine basis, soccer games, guitar lessons. Awesome. Soccer games. And if you don't show up at the game, the rest of the parents are wondering, where are you? What happened? Our kids pull us into these activities and these third places. Anybody got a third place tied to your children? So if we think about this concept of a first place home, second place where you spend your days, on a routine basis, work, school, third place where you go and you share your gifts and you meet with people with similar interests, that is not the way we typically define community in our service system. How do we define community in our service system? It's where we go visit. We're going to go to Walmart. Oh, yeah, Walmart's really a place where I meet people and chat and, I might see somebody I know, but that's not where I go intentionally to hang out with friends. Or McDonald's. We need to think about community as a place where you belong, not just where you visit. So go to the next one. If you've attended our two showcases this year, 25 and 24, you heard our keynote, Al Condalucci, who I just love, from Pittsburgh. And he talks about community is a group of people who regularly come together for a common cause or celebration. So think about if you have a group that goes out and goes to dinner frequently, or maybe you're part of an advocacy group, or a part of a community group where you meet to talk about concerns in the community. And it's where we make connections, and those connections are called social capital. How many people do we know? We know that if people with disabilities map out their relationships, they're probably going to have most people in their circle who are paid to be there. Whereas you and I would probably have probably 10 to 15 times more people in our circles than people with disabilities, because we have formed social capital. Another person who wrote a lot about community is Robert Putnam, and I love the name of his book, Bowling Alone. Again, it's 25 years old, but the principles have not changed. And he talks about community as being a place where you have connections, you have trust, and you have reciprocity. So, as a family member, as a sibling, I would always be concerned because Nick would be invited to events, weddings and baptisms and, by friends. And they would say, you don't have to bring anything, Nick. You don't have to bring anything. But what do we all do when we go to someone's house? What do we all do when we go to a celebration? We take something. So I said, Nick, you don't have to take something big, but you're going to take something, even if it's a small gift card, because there's reciprocity. We want people to be seen as valued. Go ahead, Angie. So we need to look at how are we helping people be part of their community. If you think about church, why do you feel part of church? Probably because you're going there and you're sharing your gifts. Maybe you volunteer in your faith-based community. Maybe you work on a committee. Maybe you're part of a group and you do something after church. Maybe you go to brunch. But we are valued members of our community because we share our gifts, and we have gifts of our head, what we know. So as we talk about community connections, think about, do you know the gifts of the people you support or your family members? I worked with a lot of people whose passions were cars and trains. And so helping them connect with other people who liked cars and trains, gifts of their heart, their qualities, and gifts of their hands, what they can do. So, we all have gifts of our hands. Put in chat any of your gifts. What do you share with your community? I'm an organizer. So I am part of a group at church that raises money for philanthropic purposes. And we bake. Now, I do not know how to bake 20 dozen cookies. I can follow directions. I can make sure we have everything we need. I can organize. What are your gifts? What do you contribute to your community? Think, do you belong to groups, book clubs, community groups, faith-based groups? Type in chat. Excuse me, type in chat. I know it's hard to be self-reflective, but if we can't identify our gifts, we sure as heck can't help other people identify theirs. Cooking and baking on it. Oh, nice, Lisa. You know, Angie and I and several of, maybe some of you were at Synergy Conference at Kalahari last week, and we heard about lots of people's gifts. Some people are artists. Oh my gosh. I mean, they are beautiful. Their art is lovely. Okay, so you're helpful to your neighbors. Okay, dog sitting. Awesome. Awesome. What else? An organizer. Yep. Lending a helping hand to members. Yep. What are your gifts of your head? What knowledge do you have? I've met singing with a folk group, taking mom shopping every Saturday. Okay. So think of the gifts of, you know, we're trying. The reason I'm asking you about your gifts is as we talk to people, as we learn more about their interests, we want to know their gifts so we can help them find a group that shares those gifts. So a folk group, somewhere where they can support and organize, help people organize. Um, Cooking and baking, you know, if that's their passion, then is there some kind of a group where they can cook or bake, maybe for others, maybe as part of a philanthropic effort? You know, there's groups that make, what is it, Lasagna Love, where people will make lasagna and deliver it to people who may have difficulty getting groceries. If people are like to work with their hands, could they go volunteer at a food bank and help put things together, food together? So think beyond just the good things we do, but how can we take people's gifts and talents and have them contribute and share them in the community? Okay, Tina, I'm sorry. I had to laugh. You said you can volunteer at the food pantry, but you can't cook. Okay, and that's great. You can go to the next slide, Angie. So as people are we're identifying, we're helping people identify their gifts. You know, people who love trains, there are train clubs. Can we help them find a train club? People who are teenagers, one mom said, I'm going to start supporting my son to go to the teen club at church, at our faith-based community, because she wanted him to meet other teenagers and be around other teens and have fun together. So I asked you about your third place. I asked you about your gifts. Let's go on. As we're helping people find places where they can share their gifts, they're going to have to introduce themselves. And, you know, we want to use an old standby charting the life course and person centered tool, and that's the one-page description, and we want to watch the words that we use. So some people may be shy. Some people may not have the words to introduce themselves when they go into new situations, like if they go volunteer. Or this young man who was going to start going to the youth group, his mother wrote a one-page description that was 3 pages long. And I said, who is this for? Because you always think you write the one page for the reader. And she said, this is for the youth director. I said, why do you have his medical appointments down? And she goes, well, because that's part of him. I said, are they going to take him to the doctor? She goes, of course not. Why do you have his medications down? Are they going to be giving him meds? Of course not. They can't pass meds. What do they need to know to support him to be active in this youth group? What are his gifts? What does he like? And so then she thought and she goes, well, he's helpful. He's funny. He's not too athletic, Barb. He's not coordinated. I said, we don't have to put that down. And I said, but what do they need to know to support him? Because he does not use words to communicate. And she said, they should never ask him, do you want to do something? You know, whatever. And the kids do lots of things. Do you want to play basketball? Do you want to play cards? Do you want to, you know, whatever, play ping pong? And she said, don't ever ask him because his answer will always be no. So you can go to the next one. So I said, okay, let's think about a one page. Okay, put his picture. What do you want that youth director to know? Identify his qualities. What's important to him while he's at the youth group. So, you know, does he like to have snacks? Is that important? Is it important to him to be around other teenage boys, or does he like teenage boys and teenage girls? Think about that setting. What's important to know for that setting? And then how to best support was don't ever ask him, do you want to? Because he'll say no. And I said, so what should they do? And she said, they should go up to him and say, let's take a walk. Let's go see what they're doing over there. And just walk with him and then let him go. If he is interested, he'll join. If he's not going to join. And I said, that's what they need to know in that setting. And she was like, this is easy. I said, yes. Get rid of all that other stuff and just write what they need to know when he's there. You can go to the next one. So always remember, who am I writing it for? Who will read it? Because it's got to be meaningful for them. And as you know, a lot of you have attended other things, including this morning. Somebody can have more than one page. So if they're going to a club, maybe they have it for going to the club and what they can contribute to the club. You know, maybe what's important to them is being able to talk about trains. And so when they're at the train club, people can engage them and say, oh, what trains do you like, or whatever, how to make sure they're engaged. And also, you know, some people can't, if they're asked, tell me a little bit about yourself, they're apprehensive. And so this is a nice way that they can just hand the paper over and introduce themselves or look at it. It might help remind them, or they can read it. Because what do we do when we go somewhere new? We introduce ourselves. Or someone that maybe knows us there might say, hey, Barb, I want you to meet this person. Do you know them? No, I don't. Oh, okay. Hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. So this is a way to do that first step to making a connection. Go ahead, Angie. So think about where people can share their interests and passions. Think about clubs. Is there a place where they can share their hobbies? You know, there are lots of groups that will sew together or knit. If somebody sews or knits and they make like socks for people, or they make blankets for babies, you know, how can we help people be part of their community, share their gifts so they're seen as a valued member? And please do not forget virtual communities. I was working with some parents in the spring, and the one mom said, my son does not like being around people. He gets very anxious and he'll withdraw. And I said, are you aware of the virtual community We Thrive Together? And she goes, I have never heard of them. I said, they offer activities. You don't have to pay. They have a monthly calendar. You can attend any you want. If he joins something and he realizes I don't like this, he can leave. It doesn't matter. but it exposes people to other people. And also they do things, they do art classes, they talk about money literacy, financial literacy, they play games, but you got to know the interests. And so I'm pushing you to think about, what gifts do you share, and what are the gifts that the people you support can share? If we don't know them, we can't help them be part of their community and be seen as valued members. All we can help them do is visit. Get in a car or a van and go somewhere and walk around. Go ahead, Angie. Thanks. I'm going to turn it to Angie.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the idea of interests and how we can help folks to be able to engage and to become that part of a valued member of the community. Feel that sense of belonging, be there with others. But we kind of want to just there's talk about the difference in the similarities between interests and hobbies. Okay, because their interests can lead to hobbies, hobbies can lead to interests. There is a interconnection, but there's also a little bit of separateness to this. Okay, so like one of the things that I think about for myself, right? Like I like to paint. Okay, I paint. I have like a paintings all. It's what I do. I paint. I do it for myself. It's a hobby that I have that I enjoy doing. That I like to paint. It is not something that I share with others. It is not something that I want to hang out with people and we all paint together. So it's not to say that every single thing a person does or every interest they may have is something that should absolutely lead to a social situation. Sometimes it could just be something that is their own. And it's just something, it's my thing. I like to do it. I like to paint quietly when I'm by myself. I go lock myself in the basement and leave me alone. It's my outlet. I don't want to share with others. But then I have other interests that I do want to share. Like, talking about your third space and things that you do and your connections. Like I play Mahjong. I love to play Mahjong. Can't play Mahjong alone. It's kind of an impossible task, right? So I need to go out to play Mahjong with others. So I have to go find that group. I have a group. Sometimes we invite new people. I'm kind of afraid to join a new group because, I'm afraid that like I'm not playing by the right rules. Who knows what'll happen, but I need to branch out a little bit. So, I have those interests, I have those things I like, I have my hobbies, and, helping folks to be able to know that it's okay to have something that you want to do alone, but you can't, but doing everything alone isn't going to be the best, right? That's what's going to help to improve that quality of life for you, is find those things that you can do with others, find those things that you want to share with others, and keep some of them for yourself if that's what you want to do. There we go. So, and then another thing, okay, so this is like one that Barb and I were talking a lot about, is this idea of like, um, we're going to call this collections. Okay, there are things like Barb had mentioned earlier, how some folks like trains, right? And they can tell you everything there is to know about trains, and there's trains and whatever, that's their thing, right? That's their passion, that's their fascination, and it's probably their collection as well, right? They probably have lots of things to go along with it. They have a train whistle, or they have a model train, or they have a train t-shirt, and they have a train hat, and that's what people do. And everybody kind of does that, right? And sometimes we call these things age appropriate or age inappropriate. But why do we have to differentiate, and why can't we just kind of focus on the collection part? Okay, so a couple examples. My son he just turned 26 like 2 days ago, and he loves everything anime. Okay, so it's basically cartoons, right? It's anime. He could tell you every voice actor for each one, and which ones are the same voice actors for which other one, and how the guy that created Death Note was a part of the writing team for Dr. Stone, and then that guy did, and he can do all that. He has pictures in his house. He has shirts and jerseys that have pictures on them. He collects those little big head doll things. I don't know what they're called, those pop figure things. He has those. He has action figures. He's got all these things. That's his collection. Now, that's his interest, and he makes connections with other people. He has made many friends. Some of them are virtual friends, and he's found them online by playing the video games that go along with it, and he's made friends. I mean, and these are some amazing friends. I mean, I've met many of these friends. If they travel to another place, they're in other states, they find each other. It's amazing. Okay. And that all comes from his collection. Okay. And so sometimes folks, adults, kids, everybody will have something that they really like. Like another example we talked about was SpongeBob. Okay, I have a cousin, loves SpongeBob, you know, and some folks could say that that is age inappropriate for this 50-year-old woman to like SpongeBob. But why? I mean, it's her thing. She likes it. She can quote things. She could do stuff, you know, she talks about it. And it's something where it helps her to be able to connect. And it also helps her to feel comfortable. And she may, you know, she may use that as as like a jumping off point. Well, she'll say some quote or she'll do something or she'll pull something from the show that is somebody, you know, that's the words from the show, but they're words that are meaningful to her too, that help her to start that engagement, that interaction, right? So sometimes those collections that we have, those things, those fascinations that that we like, we don't have to worry about whether they're age appropriate or not, okay? Because if there's something we like, it's something we like. And you know what? Odds are there's something there that somebody else likes too. And it's about trying to find the other people that like them too. And why not make that connection with those folks? Okay. So just like how do we discover some of these interests? Because sometimes folks have not been asked necessarily, or they haven't been given a lot of opportunities to find out what some of the things are that they really do like, or that sometimes they do like something, but they've never been asked about it, and so they don't even know that's the thing I should share. So it's like trying to find out, you know, using some tools and some other information to help with those conversations when we're asking people about their interests, the things that they like, and how can we help them to do that? You know, how can we help them to be able to understand their own passions, the things that they like, and to help them to see that, you know, to discover what some of their interests might be. Okay, so sometimes, again, like I said, they might be going somewhere and doing something, and you ask them, well, why do you like going there? Well, I like it because, you know, we sing. Oh, so is singing an interest? Oh, okay. So that helps you to build from that. Okay. So how do we do that? So, you know, again, it's about using those opportunities, finding out, you know, where people are going, where they're spending their time, what is their third space, and then you know, taking that and taking the conversation a step further. Keep going a little deeper with that. Why do you like going there? Talk to me about it. What happens there? What is, you know, what does it look like when you're there? And then you can pull some of those other experiences in. Okay, and then another way, if you know, if you're still like, we got to go a little further, we're still not getting there. There's always surveys. Okay, so there's always surveys. So I'm going to show you, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about surveys. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So they can help with, you know, facilitating the conversations. You can learn some of the what you like, what you don't like stuff. And you can use them. Okay, some of them will say this is for employment, or this is for your leisure time, or this is for whatever. They'll have a title on them, but you don't need to use it for what's on the title if it's going to get to what you need, and you don't need to score it. It's about the conversation. Okay, so it's not about, oh, you scored high on the artistic field, therefore you must like blah, blah, blah. No, these are the things you said you liked, so let's take that a step further. It's how to facilitate the conversation. So it's just a tool to help you to keep moving with that conversation. So some examples, like here's one that is, you know, pretty basic. You're asking somebody, you know, right on, no way. Do you like it? Do you not? And you're listing out things. Do you like to go camping? Do you like baking? Do you like this? Do you like that? And an individual would be like, yes or no. Okay. And then you might ask them, let's take it a step further. Tell me a few other things. Okay, we talked about how you like baseball. Well, why do you like baseball? Is it because you get to sit outside, or is it because of the hot dogs? So let's talk about why you like baseball, right? So take it a step further. Another example is one that has a lot of, has more pictures. Okay, so we can do things with lists and photos. Again, not about the scores, not about total up how many you got in this category or that category. But if we see these images and I see an image of a roller coaster, I might be like, no way, nope, not, no, 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 I don't like that. But I see that, oh, baseball cards. Okay, I like the baseball cards. Okay, is it the baseball or is it the cards? Let's talk about that. Okay, so it gives you that prompt to keep going. Right, and then we have others that have more images like this. And again, like this is a career interest inventory where it's like trying to get at those interests where, that are categorized. Don't worry about the categories. Just look at the pictures. Just say, well, when you look at these pictures, which one is your favorite? Which one is the one you relate to the best? Which one do you want to do? Right. And you're just kind of using it as a tool to get a conversation started. Also remember that even though if an individual does not use their voice to communicate, or they don't use AAC to communicate, everybody communicates, right? We all know that everybody communicates. So try to use some of these tools in different ways to help them to be able to communicate what their preferences are. Sometimes it could just be that they're saying yes and no to things. Sometimes it could be a smile or a nod, whatever that is. And if you need to go further, you can always look to those individuals who know that person very well to help with that. Okay? All right. I'm gonna
Okay.
it back over to Barb.
Thanks. So again, these interest inventories are good conversation starters and also helps people think about possibilities. If you ask somebody, what are you interested in? Who knows what they would say. But if we show them all these pictures and, which ones do you like? Have you tried any? And then when we find something, or maybe our outcome is to even identify people's interests because we don't know them. Then we can use the star, and you've gone to other trainings, so hopefully you know what the star is for. But we can use it to identify how to help someone contribute and belong. So it could be that in the middle of the star, we would put help them identify interests, or it could be help them connect and contribute related to cooking or baking or whatever, playing golf. Do they want to play golf on electronically, or do they want to go to a putt-putt course, or, do they want to watch golf? I learned I had to ask people, is this something you want to watch or do? And I was surprised. I assumed do, and it was watch. And I was like, whoops, do not make assumptions. You can put it to the next one. So we're going to look at the star in a minute, but we also wanted to share with you a social and spirituality starter star, just to give you some ideas, so under personal strengths, what hobbies do they have? What interests? Do they need supplies? We had a woman at a day program last year tell us that she wanted to paint more, and she wanted to thank people for all the good things they do. And her day program staff was like, you paint? Do you want to paint more? What do you use? And she told them, and they said, do you have the materials? And she said, no, they cost a lot of money. So what did that day program provider do? They went to see what kind of supplies they could get donated for her. She ended up making like a poster, and she wanted to thank the firemen, and the fire station was a block away. And the day program invited the firemen to come down for coffee and cookies. And she gave them the poster, the card, the big card she made. And what a way to show her value to the community. So, they took one little thing she said, pursued it, and then offered her an opportunity. And they're still building on that. Like, what else do you want to do? And what other, medium do you like? You can go on. So we thought what we would do is give you a little bit of time. We want you to think about maybe your family member, maybe somebody you know, identify their interest or passion in the center, and then brainstorm some possible supports to help them share their passion or pursue their passion and interest and build social connections. So we're going to put you in breakout rooms. There's 14 of you, I believe, because we'll take the 3 of us out. and pick either, you want to go to the next slide, pick an interest or a passion, or we put some up that we've heard, people who love trains, people who love Disney or Avenger or Harry Potter or the comics or a history. It doesn't matter what. And then brainstorm, start with personal strengths. Don't even go to eligibility specific, but look at the 4 other points of the star. How can you help people? You can pick one of the topics, interests that we've identified, or maybe one of that you've worked, you're working with somebody and maybe trying to do this already. 14 people, let's put them in 2 groups of 7 and just brainstorm. We'll give you 5 minutes. And when you come back, we'll just ask you maybe to share what you did and if you found any great opportunities. Thanks.